Hi, everybody. My name is AnneCTotero. Welcome back to part two. And it's your first time joining. This is the 600-pound therapist narrative. So my name again is AnneCTotero. You could see here that I run the Skull Meatloaf podcast. I'm a therapist and AMFT approved supervisor. I've decided to dedicate 3 parts to talk about how I got to 600 pounds and how I'm now at 350. Hopefully increasing some sort of education. But the biggest thing to remember is all of these posts are educational only. They are one person's experience. They are just mine, and please consult your medical or care team providers for anything else. The other thing to note here, any of my LLC or myself, they just represent me. You can look at my social media policy. It's on AnneCTotero.com, but it's important to know it doesn't reflect my colleagues, where I work, anything else. This is me on my off time. It is not something that I'm paid to do. I don't have any alternative. I don't have any alternative disclosures at this time. And just please know that mindful media is all about just taking this information and bringing it back to people, talking about it, consulting at least in threes with loved ones and professionals. And the most important thing is take care of yourself. These are very difficult topics. So trigger warnings, there's everything from food and mood to weight to the word fat. Some people don't like suicide risk, etc. There's all those things that are included in it today. And if you are interested, you can follow me on absolutely any single platform. AnneCTotero and AnneCTotero.com is where you can go. So this is part 2. If you have not, please click and find part 1, which is describing what got me to the point of 600 pounds. Now we're going to go into the journey of now I'm 600 pounds. Now what? What do we do? Now, this one is probably going to be very openly the most triggering for people, especially if you have body image, internalized fat phobia, some of these other things. And if you don't, it still is probably just a difficult talk. So it's important to know, take care of yourself, pause, leave, come back. But also if you have you or a loved one that's going through this, whether you're feeling really stuck in your health journey or you're 600 pounds yourself, when I say I was 600 pounds in my house waiting to die, there is a way out of this. And I want to share this to hopefully find those individuals that if there is a system, people, even bigger, a culture that's telling you that you're not enough or that you can't do this, I am here to tell you that that is not true. And you will have people like us by your side and other good people, which you're going to hear in this story that I had on my side, that it took a lot of years to get them by my side, but we found each other. So let's continue. Where we left off was basically right before. Now, as I was processing this with my partner before I was doing this part 2, he was saying what it really started, what he observed. So I've been with him for 8 years. What he observed was in 2017, not just that was before my brother had passed. So 2017 is when my physical issues really started coming up, which I shared. In 2017 was when my mobility really tanked. He says he remembers me the last time I walked up a hill was 2017. The last time he saw me walk even beyond 200, 300 feet was in 2017. And that was, like I said, when I went to Northern Michigan, where I was going to give a colloquium, where I used to work. Keep in mind, I didn't share this, but all this time I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. And later in 2018, even after my brother, I become an AMFT approved supervisor. I'm working in a major institution. I'm a leader in that institution. I'm also later on teaching. So I have this very successful career that's going alongside, and it's almost like nobody knows what's happening. Everybody, I'm sure, know I was gaining weight in some way. But when the pandemic really hit, I don't think people really know. Very openly in 2025, this is the first time some people have even seen me in since before 2020, before the pandemic, which we're going to go into. So sorry, I did watch the last video, and at the end, I did tear up a little. So that's why I'm taking some deep breaths. Because this 600-pound section, this is part 2 about me at 600 pounds. And I wanted to break this up because this is very heavy. There's a lot of information, but I think this one will be a little shorter than the last one. Please check out part 1 for more. So, as my partner was saying, in 2017, it really started. I do think that the mobility issues and the arthritis and osteoarthritis, I had horrible bone spurs on both knees. I got multiple scans from now to date, 2017 to 2025. My knees are just getting worse because I can't get them done because I weigh too much. So I'm just waiting, waiting, waiting. And all this time, I just have this goal of like, I got to get my knees done. Everybody thinks the ultimate goal is being 250 or getting my skin taken off. For me, it's just getting my knees done. It's going to be my greatest joy. So as we move forward through this, one of the other things that occurs is, so my mobility starts going. I think the grief really went into it. Then I lost my grandpa. Um, had some other things that happened, and a lot of these medical issues and difficulties that were going on that I already described. I get to 600 pounds and we're in the pandemic, and now it's just the worst, the worst. So now I'm basically, let's just say between, 520 and 600. This is around the time that I'm at that point where in the pandemic, I'm moving less. I'm almost completely immobile to the point where very openly, it gets so bad. And this is where trigger warning. Okay. This is where it gets so bad that now I'm joking. um, I can't go to the bathroom. So one of the things with weight gain, for obvious reasons, mobility and ambulatory issues become a big issue. And that adds to a whole bunch of stuff. I remember just slowly losing being able to wipe myself. At first, it started with defecation, then it went to then it went to even urination. I had difficulty changing, which I shared with you. I had hormonal issues and bleeding issues. It was difficult to change my pad. It was difficult to change my tampon. So this turned into almost like a very severe hygienic issue. Thank goodness I was lucky enough, privileged enough to have a partner that turned into very much a caretaker. He, took it upon himself. He was working too. He was having to come home. He was having to come home sometimes 2 times a day to take care of me, and I'm gonna go into how severe it got, but that's how it started, is that. Then I started trying to find assisted devices in the sense of when I was in the shower, when I was wiping, there's little things that you can buy. I wish I still had them. There are assisted devices that you can use for wiping. Didn't really work, they broke off, they were kinda crappy. The other thing was I got something to sit on in the shower because I was starting, by the way, I used to shower every single day. I'm very hygienic in that sense. So the fact that this affected me in such a way that I couldn't shower if I was lucky once a week. Basically, we were doing maintenance wipes downs. And what that means is like clean wipes and salt and water, not salt and water, excuse me. I'm like soap and water and doing that and making sure like my groin, my areas, everything was clean. I'll just say vagina. Okay. It's a medical term. My vagina, that my behind was taken care of, that my armpits were taken care of. And here's the thing, the fat folds. The fact of it is like there can be infections. Some of my biggest infections that I had on my body from being plus size was underneath like my pouch, or that like marsupial pouch, right? They call it the fupa. Underneath that, because of my skin was hanging so low and my fat was hanging so low that I would get like infections underneath the skin. We were able to keep my behind, my vagina, my armpits, things like that. Even like get to like washing my hair in the sink, we had to, because I couldn't even get up the stairs. My showers was up the stairs. I couldn't get up the stairs to shower. And if I did, it took Tony and I minutes and minutes, and it turned into an avoidance. Hygiene avoidance was not my thing. I was very hygienic. I showered every day, sometimes twice a day if I worked out or played sports or did something or had a hard day or a hard day sitting in the chair at work or whatever. I did. So that became a thing, and that was very difficult. So now my partner, we were at the point where I lost my ability so much that I even needed a walker, one of those bariatric walkers, just to get to the bathroom that was probably 20 feet away. My partner had to like help me up, and we had to get that. And sometimes he even had to convince me. And I never got to that point, but, like, when he was at work, if I had any sort of stomach issues, especially from the meds I was taking, which I told you about, I would have to defecate or have diarrhea multiple times a day from these medications and the things I was going through, or from the bleeding, from the hormonal issues. So I basically sometimes, you guys, this is where it gets really raw. I need you to know, I would sit in my shit. I would basically go to the bathroom, and if I couldn't wipe myself, I would did the best I could. I remember setting things on the seat and trying to shake it. I remember trying to stand up and get it. I remember trying to move and do everything that I could. I remember even taking a towel and trying to do that, which obviously you'd figure how that'd be an infection. So sometimes I just wiped as much as I could, and then I put 2 towels down and I sat in my shit until Tony got there. I basically would, until he could wipe me, until he could come home at lunch hour. By the way, he was still taking care of himself, still going to work, and still taking care of our dog, who at the time was ambulatory, thank goodness. That's my brother's dog, actually. We took her in after he had passed. She's the greatest joy from the greatest loss. But, she was in the second half of her life, so she was aging and had to go out more often. And Tony took it upon himself, sometimes traveling all the way across town to do it. So he was my full-time caretaker. That could be a whole thing or interview himself is under like people understanding what it was like being a partner to someone that was 600 pounds. And in like the movie The Whale, he had his friend, he had people stop by, but he didn't really have anybody. I had somebody full time that was a caretaker. That was something that was very important. Um, so now I'm doing that. And it got to the point where, hygienically it became difficult. I don't think you guys from 2000 March 2020 till Christmas, I think I saw my parents at Christmas time. I did not see anybody. I was still working virtually for therapy. People could see here, but they didn't see what was going on. And I was always plus size, so probably nobody noticed. But I would sit here, I would put my headphones on. No one could see that I didn't shower. Sometimes my hair was greasy or things were happening. I was definitely looking like hygienic on camera. Which if you watch The Whale, he literally was a teacher and nobody noticed. I was a teacher, I was a therapist, I was all these things and nobody knew how miserable I was. I made sure that it didn't affect my care. I basically conserved whatever energy and motivation I had to keep my job because financially and because of my insurance, I couldn't not. So I'm basically struggling. I'm at my worst. I'm going through all these things. I'm conserving my energy so it doesn't affect my patients, my families, the couples that I see, my students. I basically conserved all that energy. And Tony and me got nothing at the end of the day, to be honest. And my dog probably got the most love. And I needed assisted devices. It took a long time. By the way, I'm still going to appointments and trying to get help. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And um, yeah, it was. And then I have to use a shower chair. And if I was showering at its worst, okay, I'm being honest here. This is really hard. I would say once a week. What That's not at its worst. 1 to 2 times a week I was showering. Tony and I would actually like get up and physically shower me. He had to help. I literally had to like bend over and get stuff done. It took 45 minutes to an hour. I used to take 15 to 20-minute showers. Now I was taking 60 minutes and I would like sob in pain and cry and very openly get angry. And like Tony was a trooper and I'm sure that took a toll on him. Again, you would have to ask him. I know him and I have talked about it and have processed it, but it was a lot. And I know it was a lot for him. And I just had so much guilt and shame and everything else. So then it would turn into something that was not like me. The scariest thing about being 600 pounds right now is how much not like myself I was. Not only just hygienically, physically, movement wise, but my personality. I have never felt depressed in my life. I could just say that very clearly. I am an anxious person and a hyperactive person, ADHD and OCD, but I am not a depressed person. I've never had depression in my life. I was severely depressed, severely getting up, eating sometimes. I know, surprising. Eating, it's only because my body, like when some days I just wouldn't because I no, just couldn't. I didn't want to. I was very isolative. I didn't want to see people. By the way, I'm an extrovert, so it almost like turned me to an introvert. There was all that medical trauma, all the things that happened, guilt and shame. I couldn't go out in public because I couldn't walk. And very openly, there's not a lot of bariatric things to do. There's not a lot of things for fat people in the world to do in the sense of when you are immobile fat. And at that time, I didn't have assisted devices. So at its worst, I didn't share this. At its worst, I avoided without even realizing it. At its worst, what I noticed was I didn't shower. I think 6 weeks was the worst. I was doing maintenance stuff. Like basically we were taking care of like my body, like my bottom and everything and my armpits and my face. But in my hair, but like an actual shower was 6 weeks. That was the worst that it was. And that's really embarrassing. It's really hard to say, but that was true. But because I didn't see anybody but Tony, and Tony was very accepting, inclusive, and loving, he just like went with it. He helped me and we did what we needed to do. So then this point in like the 600-pound life, like I just got like angry. I got angry, depressed, fed up. And this is the point in my life in the middle of the pandemic with everything happening, all the stressors. I was basically just at my worst. So then I decided to go back. Okay. I decided to go back to the weight loss program. I got a referral. I waited for them. I went to go see them. I don't want to release their name here, but it is the weight loss management program at UW and it's a positive experience. So I let people know like they helped me save my life. Absolutely. But even more, there's someone else that saved my life. And that person I am going to give, maybe I won't give her name. I haven't gotten her permission, but if she ever sees this, which maybe she will, they definitely helped me save my life with tools. Okay. So now I go back, same doctor. He's really great. He's really straightforward. We kind of vibe off each other. He's like a no BS or no bullshitter like I am. So we vibed. I went back to the official weight loss management program to talk about gastric sleeve or gastric bypass. And the hardest part about this meeting is he had a very honest conversation. I was 600 pounds at that point. He looked at me, he said, he didn't say these words. I'm perceiving these words. I'm saying this. I was too fat for surgery. He basically said insurance, like it's actually a risk. And he's like, and it's not even like me liable or anything. He goes, actually, just with the weight of the stomach and the way that it works. And he went into all the medical reasons for the first time. Someone expressed in detail why he couldn't, not that he didn't want to. He's like, this is why I need you below this weight. It's not just for insurance, by the way. For insurance, most insurance companies, you have to show that you can lose weight, but the amount that he needed me to lose was more so for a safe surgery. Okay. So now being told you're too fat to get surgery, the end of the line, gastric sleeve, gastric bypass, right? These are the things that people use in their 50s and 60s when they haven't been able to manage their diabetes or haven't been able to manage insulin resistance or whatever for a long time. I was 30 something years old and they're like, you're at the end of the line, but you're too fat for it. I want you to know that this fucking destroyed me too. This is another key thing. Nothing he did wrong or they did wrong. The fact is, it needed to be medically safe. Okay. It needed to be medically safe. And so then I asked him, I remember asking, I said, so I just know this is related to my knees, my bone spurs, all these other things. I know that this is the stuff that's related. I want to get my knees done. What weight do I need to be at? And guys, I almost lost it. He said to me, the weight that you need to be at is under 300 pounds. Most doctors, you can find one. It's tougher, but you'll find one that if you're under 300, somebody will do it. I lost it. Not on him, but when I got back in the car, I sobbed. I looked at Tony. I said, I have been under 300 pounds at least 4 fucking times. And because that medical misinformation, or honestly, fat phobic medical bias or gaslighting from that one doctor, that she's like, you need to be under 200. I told him that story and he looked at me, he goes, it's not possible for you to be under 200 pounds. The weight that you are, even at 400 pounds, you wouldn't have been able to be under 200. Even when I was in high school, guys, 175 was me skinny, slender. It was me healthy. So the fact that she's wanting me to be to my high school weight, none of us can once you hit hormonal phases, by the way. So stop the unrealistic expectation because that's what turns into eating disorders and other issues. So there's all these things. And he goes, that's not possible. And I said, oh my God. And of course, how am I supposed to know that? So at 24, I could have gotten my knees done. All the other stuff, potentially, we don't know, arthritis, everything else. At least it could have been lower risk. So all these things go back and he's like, that's very disappointing. I'm sorry that that happened. I said, yeah, me too. So me too, bud. So then he says, okay, so this is what we're going to do. But immediately when you hit that weight, you're going into surgery. And he prioritized it. He put it in. They checked in on me. I went through the weight loss program. I went through the meetings. I went through everything that they needed to. I did everything that they asked me to do, everything insurance asked. And then he's like, you need to get to like down that weight. So then he sent me to a specialist. It was an internal provider. She no longer works there, but she's wonderful. She is basically I think an endocrine specialist, like an endocrinologist, a weight loss specialist, etc. So I had gone to her, but I had to wait a year, you guys. I had to wait almost a year to get into her, and she's damn good, so it made sense. But I had to wait a year to get into her. So now you're struggling. You're too fat for surgery. You're waiting for this appointment. I tried to go to other specialists. I did nutritionists. I did all the programs that they said. I was still eating well and doing this, but I was not losing much weight, you guys. Maybe like 20, 30 pounds myself because we still don't know what was going on. So then there's all this year. I'm barely seeing anybody. I'm trying to keep my crap together at work. I'm trying to make sure things don't impact my patients, and they did not. And I say ethically, they did not. So nobody come at me. I never would serve people if it impacted. But just because sometimes people don't realize we have in struggles that people know nothing about, that is the same with every therapist, every teacher, every doctor. They have shit that you're going through that you literally have no idea. And just know it's not to like make people feel guilty or anything. We preserve that energy and conserve it so we can give it to our patients and everything too. And that's the problem. I gave everything in my nervous system to everybody else. We're going to get to that in part 3. We're not going to do it right now. But that is what happened. So I gave everything I had. By the way, keep in mind, this is finally the year that I start fighting. I start fighting and I say, like, I'm not going to sit in my, but when I say, like, I was not doing well, I was still extremely depressed until that appointment for that year. I was doing what I could do, but it was basically just surviving. When I say literally sitting in the corner waiting to die, I was finally starting to have my parents come over. I probably saw my parents twice in that year, like around, I guess that's 21 or 2022 when that's happening. I'm barely seeing people. I think I know for a fact I had to go to my grandma's funeral. That was the first time my family saw me, and that was really, really sad because I think people were very much grieving, like, what was happening. And I didn't tell anybody, guys. I didn't tell anybody. I'm a communicator. I have good boundaries. I do all those different things. I didn't tell anybody. My friends didn't know. Nobody but Tony. Tony and my parents are basically the only. And honestly, my parents didn't even know how bad it was. Our house was going to shit. The hygiene of the house, because Tony was using all of his energy on me and going to work and taking care of the dog. The hygiene in the house. We have normally a really immaculate, clean house. That went downhill. And that went really difficult. Cleaning was difficult. I remember cleaning got so difficult that I literally, like, there was neglected clothes that were downstairs because I never went out. So they went downstairs. We ended up having a small, not flood, but water in the basement, and mold got all over, like, probably $1,500 worth of clothes, like, from my childhood and everything else. We had to completely throw it out. Everything. It was just a mess, okay? All the hygiene in the house, myself, everything was going. Tony's fucking exhausted at this point. He's running around 60,000 places. He's switching jobs because a lot of people don't support. We're not an official domestic partnership, so he couldn't fill out any FMLA paperwork. He was struggling himself, which I'm not going to go into. That's his story. But ultimately, there was a lot of stuff going on. So you have a caretaker that's struggling himself. You have a dog that's in this home who's the joy of everything. She's just happy to be around. And she had me all the time, so she was happy about that. But there was hygiene left, everything like that. And I was just waiting for this appointment. I have videos. I should show them one day of just sobbing and sobbing and sobbing and sobbing, feeling no hope, trying to listen to music, finding the only thing. And very openly, I tell people that there was one point where I was laying on the side after a shower that took me literally an hour and a half because my pain was so bad. I was sitting there just laying on my side saying, I don't want to do this anymore. And the hardest part is it's not an active suicidality, like I'm going to go pick something up and do it, but it's just giving up. That's what sometimes being 600 and depressed is you just sit there and you give up. Like, waiting to die is also suicidal. Not having a will to live is also suicidal. Not taking care of your health, even if it's not actively suicidal, it's passive suicidality. And people need to understand and need to take ownership. And I'm telling you, if you're suffering with this or you're going through this, please don't wait to talk to somebody. Please don't wait to ask for help. Please don't think that you are hopeless. Don't think that there's not something that we can do. There are those of us in this community or others that can teach you, but it's really important to really seek out care from your medical professionals and from people that really care about you and see you. Sometimes doing things alone does not help. Perpetual independence is toxic. I had it. Guilt and shame does not help you. It's heavy. It's grief. You cannot do this alone, okay? And the reality is I wouldn't have made it without Tony, without my parents, and without the help of these other professionals. I wouldn't have been able to do it. You cannot do this alone. If you are over a certain amount of weight, I tell people, if you're over 300, you have something medical going on. Either it's like a family history, diabetes, insulin resistance, something, okay? And I have autoimmunities and a lot of these other things. I still don't know what's going on with me, but the reality is at the very least, you need to get professionals and you cannot do this alone. That is fact, okay? You don't need to like that. I didn't like it, but you cannot do this alone. And being a perfectionist is not helpful right now. And I will talk about perfectionism in part 3 because that is a huge part of this for me. So now I'm not moving. I'm sitting in my house. I'm barely showering. I'm sitting in my shit and piss. My partner's having to take care of me. I'm eating when I can and if I can. I'm trying to keep all these jobs and act like everything is normal when it's not. It's even crazier. I'm actually, like I said, I got a multiple certifications. I was excelling in my job. And the fact that I was excelling and no one knew what was going on. And I'm not talking about they need to read it. I'm saying the fact that I didn't tell anybody, nobody knew. There was nothing that was, going on. Sorry, I have an itch on my nose. So nobody knew. Nobody knew what was going on, including my family, including people closest. I had a best friend from grade school that nobody knew. None of my close friends knew that we're in Madison. No one knew. because I didn't see anybody. So now during this time, by the way, that whole year, I'm fighting to get FMLA. Okay. And this is just very open. This is me sharing this. Um, I'm getting my FMLA. I don't even want to, I don't even think I want to go into this because of legal purposes, but just know that an employer was giving me a very, very hard time about FMLA accommodations. And I do think my rights were, I've already submitted all those things. I've taken care of all that. There's no current investigation, but I just want to let people know that um, you need to get FMLA and you need to advocate for yourself and you need to talk to people. And if there's any sort of gaslighting or fat phobia that's going on within your agency or where you work, you need to make sure you advocate for yourself. I didn't know that. I didn't know how to, but let me tell you, after that year of fighting for myself and everything else, I found out very clearly that there are laws, there are policies, there are people that you can go to. I know that now and I educate now, but that's a whole nother topic for another time. I just want to say that that whole year was fighting insurance companies about meds. It was fighting to get up in the morning, to go try to figure things out. I wasn't leaving the house. I was introverted, not talking to people. I was isolating. Um, and very openly thinking of intimacy and everything with my partner because he was wiping my ass. Like intimacy really went, and that's a whole nother topic too. So physical touch, I hated being touched. I used to be a hugger. Now, even now, I'm still getting used to like being touched again. And think of like what your partner, your friends, your loved ones go through when you have physical pain or like even being that it's really hard to see yourself as even like a sexual attractive being. I was very lucky that I had a partner that reminded me of it, but not everybody does. Um, but it takes a lot of strength and it was a very difficult thing to go through. So now we fast forward. Okay, so I'm 600 pounds. Let's get going. So now we're on this other side of it. We fast forward. Now we're getting to this appointment with this specialist. And you can see I smile already when I think about her. She's such an angel. She really is an angel on earth. So we get to this appointment. And the first thing she says, for the first time, you guys, in 30 whatever years of my life, she looks at me and she goes, so I'm just going to sit here. You just talk. Tell me your whole story. I allotted the time as long as you need. And I'm just going to listen and then we're going to come up with a plan. That woman listened to me for 45 minutes about my whole history. 45 minutes straight about my whole history. Patience of a saint. Gosh, now I know how sometimes people must feel about therapists when you guys vent to us. But she was that for me. And she heard the whole thing. And then she looks at me. I'll try not to cry. And she says, Anne, this was not your fault. This was not your fault. I, listening to you today, you blamed yourself almost every turn of it. How were you supposed to know? No one told you. And she said the medical gaslighting and the medical neglect was not your fault. The system was not your fault. The insurance was not your fault. Your work was not your fault. This was not your fault. This is a system that is not built to help fat people. It's not a system that wants fat people to survive. And it was so comforting that she used the word fat, to be honest, that she goes, the system doesn't like fat people. And I said, well, at least if you like fat people. And she goes, I do. She goes, I do. And I like you. And she's like, and we're going to figure this out. She goes, square one, let's get you on a medication. And they put me on Mounjaro. I was on GLP-1s. GLP-1s was a tool. A GLP-1 helped me save my life. Mounjaro helped me save my life. Lily or whoever's in charge of it, know that you guys saved a 600-pound person's life. Helped me save. You were a tool and you were the essential tool. And the fact that she said, you are going to be allergic to all these different things, everything. They made me exhaust resources and take these meds. I got sick on Trulicity. I got sick on, I think I took Ozempic, I think. And then I tried a couple other ones. Oh, I forgot the other one. But I tried all those. I got horribly sick, like metformin, because they were in the same family. And she's like, I think Mounjaro is it. And but the problem was, is Mounjaro was last case scenario for insurance companies and was not covered. You could get a 12-month coupon that it was, I don't remember how much it was, but it was, you could get a 12-month coupon and then it ran out because it wasn't covered by insurance. And guys, I fought insurance during those 12 months and 12 months and 12 months. Thank God I had that coupon because I just had to get 100 pounds down to get that surgery. I just had to do it. too. I just I couldn't let my parents bury another child or my family or to leave my nephew behind or even, to be honest, my parents, my sister, my nephew, my aunts, my uncles, whoever it is, my partner, that they would think that there's more that they could have done. Because that's what I was thinking, there's more I could have done. That's what survivor's guilt is even when you're alive, and I had to do it. And honestly, this is where faith comes in. I don't wanna spend too much time on it, but I need everybody to know that God absolutely was a tool for me, and, I've always been spiritual. I grew up in a Catholic school and things like that, but not the kind you would think of, not the very intrusive, not the uninclusive. Yeah, it was very healthy version of Catholicism. As I know it's not always true for all, but it was for me. And God very much helped me. And on days I could not, on days my partner, my family, my doctors could not. I needed him on those days, and he was there. And I gave it to him when I couldn't do it. And that's where I'll leave it at for now. But know that to myself, my loved ones, my medical providers. I realized I could not do it alone, and I very much, had it on them. And then my doctor's like, "Let's get you a wheelchair so we can get you out in public." And I was so embarrassed. I couldn't even think of it because I'm like, "Well, I could walk a little." And she's like, "It's ambulatory assisted device. It's not just if you can't move at all. That's not right. You've been using a walker, you've been using a cane, you've been using these things, and now it's time to use a wheelchair so we can get you out in public." And that's what she did, and I paid for it. It took me 6 months to actually get out with the wheelchair, but then when Tony and I went out to something, the first thing was actually an appointment, but we had a lot of fun, and then we went out to TJ Maxx after, and it was a good time. But that was the first time in, like, probably 2 or 3 years that I had actually gone out officially in public. 2 or 3 years. An extrovert. Anybody that knows me, you guys know me. Somebody comment or say something. This absolutely is true. I am an extrovert. I love people, okay? Sometimes I love hating people and sometimes I hate people, but most of the time I love people. I actually see the good in people and I love people. So that's the thing. That was weird for me. That was very strange for me that I was experiencing that. But the fact I went out and how good I felt, you guys. I still remember going out with my wheelchair, and the hardest part is it couldn't fit through the door. So that's something to realize with bariatric wheelchairs. One, there's bariatric wheelchairs, you guys. There's bariatric walkers. There are things to support you that are bariatric. Ask your doctor. The second thing is you can have it covered by insurance. It does mean you got to take FSA or some money, but do it. If you could spend $10 on something else, you could spend it on that every week or month. Okay. Bariatric wheelchair. The hard part is it doesn't fit through a lot of doors. So if you are fully bound in the wheelchair, it's going to be hard to get through, but there's things to do. Tony and I normally have to get up and fold in the chair and realize I'll tell you more about that in the next part. But I got in a wheelchair, and that was very exciting. And that was very exciting for us because it opened up a new door. But just that hope and that rush over, I was starting to lose weight. I was almost there. I was fighting insurance companies, fighting my employer about different FMLA stuff. I was fighting all these things, getting all the paperwork, all the things that I had to do in between my clients, in between teaching, in between all these things. By the way, again, full time, having a life and having a partner and home and everything else. I'm fighting and I'm doing all those different things, trying to stay afloat, trying to keep my head above water. And then I do it. Guys, I do it. I do it. And I hit the weight. I was 10 off, but he goes, "Screw it, let's do it." I saw him and he goes, "I'm so proud of you. Let's get this done." He scheduled it, he prioritized it. I needed to get not an EKG. I forgot what it's called, the esophagus one. But I had to get it's where they check for, like, reflux and stuff, so I had to go get that done. Okay, so then I schedule that because it's required, and I have to schedule it before my surgery because they have to know, which obviously they need to do. They need to make sure it's safe. It needs to be safe in order to do this, even if you're 500 pounds and not 600. So now, like, I lose this weight, I do it, I see my specialist, we've done it, I get to it, I have the appointment set with another hospital, different hospital, to get, not an EKG, what is it called? I have to look it up while we're talking. Um, ECG? Esophageal, maybe it is an EKG. No. I don't know. Either way, I have to get my esophagus checked. So then I go and I get to the appointment and they say, sorry, we can't. I get to the appointment. By the way, they called me 2 days before and they say, sorry, we can't. And I said, why? They said, you need to get a sleep study done first. And I said, I asked the doctor if I needed to get a sleep study done, and they said, no. Like, I didn't need to get one done. And they said, no, you need a sleep study before we could do this, guys. I literally lost it. Okay. And then I went to my doctor. He goes, yeah, you got to get a sleep study done too. And I was like, that wasn't on the requirements. I've been doing everything everybody tells me, and then everyone says that I need to go do this. So then they said they can't do it, and they can't do this, and they can't do that. So then I got to go get a sleep study. I get it done last minute, find out that I have sleep apnea, get all that stuff figured out. It was all last minute. Thank God for my doctor. He called 60,000 people and everybody he knew to get it done because he knew that it was obviously very risky. Got that done. And an EKG, I went to call back. They're like, oh, okay, we actually are booked out for like at least till the new year. Guys, I lost it because my surgery was set for September. And I said, I need to get this done. Like I said, you don't understand. And they don't, right? They just think like I'm being non-compliant or something, but I wasn't. It's the opposite. I was doing everything somebody told me to do. So then I get to this point, I get to that point, I do this, I do that. And now they're like, we can't do it now. So you know what my doctor does? Because he's a freaking rock star. He's like, I'll do it. We are not waiting. We're done. We're done with the system. This failed. They failed you. They didn't inform that that was a requirement. By the way, it wasn't an insurance requirement. It was their requirement. So then all these different things. That's another thing you find out. Ask them if it's an insurance requirement or a program. If it's a program one, ask for a second opinion. So then he goes, nope, absolutely not. Okay. So then he does it with me. He gives me the EKG. I pass. Everything's good. And he's like, done. September. Let's do this shit. Like, let's get you your life back. And I did. And I want you to know I prepared. I did everything that I needed to do. I kept eating well. I was perfect. I'm very rigid, so I did the program perfectly. I got to that point. I even lost, I think I was like 5'10" or something before I went into surgery, something like that. I went into gastric sleeve and he comes in the next morning and he's like, good job. He's like, it went perfect. It went well. I got gastric sleeve. I apologize. I forgot to mention this was all for gastric sleeve. Because he said at least at the very least, if I needed to go back on Mounjaro, if I needed to go back and get a revision, if I did something like gastric bypass, I wouldn't be able to do that. But if I got the sleeve and needed to go back for bypass to lose more, I could, if that stopped working. Which is just like a long-term goal. He was very ethical, very informed, told me about all the options. We agreed on the options. I got gastric sleeve. I got the robotic gastric sleeve. Honestly, it was just so small in comparison to sitting in your shit that I didn't really care. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's so hard for me. It was just a way of living. I just had to do it. Maybe one day I'll talk about my gastric sleeve stuff. But this is just a small part of the story, but a huge part that's what I did. And I lost. It was a huge part of losing a huge chunk of my weight, but we're not going to go into that because that's for part 3. So this was the journey, and it seems like I'm happier and there's a lot of relief, but I need you to know, like, sitting in your shit, your partner and intimacy and how that affects, and you isolate from your family and you don't see them. Your parents are aging. At that point, my I didn't get to see my nephew very often. He was a huge part in my life. He's probably the most important, sorry Tony, sorry mom and dad, but he's the most important person in my life. And I just wanted to survive ultimately for him and for my parents not to bury another child, but to go from like not being able to wipe yourself, guys, after surgery, NSVs and everything that happens, it just was so amazing to start wiping myself and showering, and I could go upstairs, and I just wanted, my goal was just to walk 5 feet, and I can walk 5 feet now. I can run a short errand. I still have to use the motorized, but let's go into that in the next part. I just need you to know that these things are tools. 2 good doctors can change your life as a tool. GLP-1s, do not let people be like, oh, are you on Mounjaro? Are you Ozempic face or whatever the fuck people say? Go fuck yourself. I just want you to know the fat phobic bullshit of you get to make fun of somebody when they are overweight or fat, and then they do something about it and you criticize how they do it. Honestly, go fuck yourself. And I want you to know That is literally from the deepest part of my soul. Your fat phobic projections and your ability to not heal your body image, fat, and everything else. Stop putting it on fat people. That's not our problem. Put it on yourself and heal it yourself. But I am not ruining your life. I'm not doing anything to fucking affect you. I'm not doing anything that hurts you. And if you want to sit here and talk about insurance and culture and everything else and how somehow a fat person loving themselves is romanticizing it, get over yourself. Because the reality is somebody loving themselves is something everybody deserves. They deserve to feel that way. And if they took their entire lifetime to do it, get off their back. And you could face somebody like me. Come find me. Come find me on YouTube or social media. We can go head to head. I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you. I'll let you say your piece. I'll let you say your bias, but I can almost guarantee that you have not been in our shoes. And if you have, and you've gone back to fat phobic culture and you decide to shame, if you're the kind of person that's lost a whole bunch of weight and you're shaming people for where you've been, then you are no better and have more healing to do. You might weigh less. But I could tell you again, weight is not about value, belief system, or character or personality. It's a number and it does not define any of us. And that is important to know too. So I want you to know there are some of us that are fighting for the rights of other people, including ourselves. So bring it the fuck on because I am ready for it. I am ready for it to look anybody in the eye and say, you have no idea where I've been, but I want to hear what you think you know. Maybe that's being a little bit of a therapist. Anybody that knows Whitaker, kind of going into a little bit of the chaos. But here's what I know. I fought for myself for 37 years, not you. And I don't need you to. I'm not asking for you to get on the bandwagon of GLP-1s or seeing things as tools or body image or health. That's my battle and the other people that have gone through it. I don't need you to sign up for what I've signed up for. What I do need you to do is stay in your lane and stop by trying to be the main character in somebody else's story because you're not. Maybe work on being the main character of your own story and who you want to support your network and things that you go through, and let us deal with that because you know what? We got our team. We got people in our foxhole. I could tell you they're damn good people. And the people that matter show up. Okay. So here's what I will say. Man, stay in your lane. Those of you, find your people. Let's go to what we do on the other side of this when we start losing weight, when we start finding ourselves, how to recover, how to stay on it, because this is an ongoing journey for me. So, part 3 will also be about that, about what's now and what's to come, and other things that I would recommend to look into. Again, not medical advice, but things to consider. And again, speaking of things to consider, I got a book coming out 9/22/2025. Please go to AnneCTotero.com and check it out. Please go follow me on all my social media platforms. Please take care of yourself. And as always, my friends, as you can see the energy going up, evolve and heal on. We'll see you soon.